Hey everyone, Glenn and I here again. Today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the new coaches here in District 1. Glenn, we have a large number of new coaches this year.
We have a record number of coaching vacancies at the start of this season or at the end of last season. 15 different new coaches here in District 1. So, kind of a big turnaround with some notable programs. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and then hear from the coaches. I'll kind of take the lead here on a little bit because I was able to interview a couple of the new coaches. I wanted to start with Frank Bing taking over at Neshaminy, which I think is one of the bigger changes out there. I mean, Frank has been instrumental, with the Neshaminy program, developing the program and kind of getting where they have been the last couple of years, which was into the District Elite 8. Here in District 1. And I don't think they're going to skip a beat. Frank has a great staff with his son, along with Dex Letter and a bunch of other young guys. And Frank's, he's just kind of picking up where he left off from last year. So not really a big, shock in terms of who got the position, but he is the head guy now. And I think that's important for the program. I'll also talk a little bit about Harry S. Truman. I got a chance to talk to Rick Varan, and again, a man that's been behind the scenes and with the Truman program for many years, kind of takes the head position. So I think that you won't see a whole lot of difference in the style of wrestling down there at Truman, but I think you'll see, kind of the kids kind of, jumping in where they left off with the former coach, with Jesse Dunn. Again, another change down there in the Suburban 1 League is our own Joe Stabilito leaves Upper Dublin and joins his son as the assistant coach. Joe Stabilito Jr. is now the new head coach at William Tennant. A lot of changes over there at William Tennant, but they're getting two really good wrestling guys in the Stabilitos. So I'm looking to see what TJ England can do wrestling out of William Tennant with some other guys on that team. And again, that's another one in the Suburban 1 League. Trying to look. We had another big change with CB South. Joe Regas retired, and Chris Meister moves over from the District 12 Catholic League from Archbishop Wood to CB South, to the team that was affected the most over the years with the Central Bucks splitting. So hopefully Chris can get the numbers up there. I know that's going to be a primary focus for him. He's got a great kid in Dominic Stoughton there kind of to build around. Ben Salem, we have Donovan Williams, his made the move into the head coaching position, a former wrestler at Ben Salem. So I don't think they're going to skip a beat either. I know Jake's not going to leave that program high and dry. I'm sure his footprint has been left there, and he's going to kind of keep his eye on the program. And I believe there was one more change. Maybe it's not in the Suburban 1 League. So yeah, those are the ones out of the Suburban 1 League. I know Joe's going to talk a little bit about the pack, and then we'll talk about the other ones.
So out of the pack, we had Boyertown, and a little bit of a surprise, become vacant. New head coach Nick Christine, from up in the north central part of the state, Indian Valley product, wrestled like Lycoming. He's trying to make his way in a program that's been well established for years. So so far so good. I've heard some good things coming out of the room there and the program, and we'll see where things go with him. It's a Boyertown team the cover's a little bit more bare than it's been in the last few years. So he's definitely got his work cut out for him, but in a good way where he can put his, as you said, footprint on what the program is going to be moving forward. The other one is another, a personal friend of mine, Tony Haley. He moves from Boyertown, where he was the assistant for the last several years, back to Methacton, where he was the head coach for 2 seasons earlier in his coaching tenure. He teaches in Methacton, and the timing was right with the vacancy of Brad Clark. Tony felt the time was right to make the move and make the program his own. He inherits a team with some top-end talent, and we'll see what Tony's able to do with that, and with his brand and his style of coaching.
Yeah, and Tony gets to bring in his buddy Chris Lloyd as well, former Methacton head coach there as well. So I think Methacton, that's a big gain for them, getting Tony Haley back and Chris Lloyd back in the wrestling room. They're just strong leaders in the wrestling community, and I think that's what Methacton's really needed the last couple of years, and they got it, and it's right in their backyard. So I'm really happy to see those two guys kind of get
definitely two
factor.
good guys. The other one from the pack is Pope John Paul. Out is Tom Hans after leading the team for a few seasons, and in is Chris Sheets, one of from the Tom Hans coaching trees. We talk about coaching trees all the time in different sports. Well, I'm going to talk about two in back-to-back jobs here. And the first from the Tom Hans coaching tree, and Sheets was a 3-year assistant for him at Upper Perk. Now was then most recently a 3-year assistant to him at PJP, and then takes the program over himself. In all honesty, Chris does have his work cut out for him, but he does return the youngest Vulak back as a returning state medalist, Matt Vulak, and he's got at least have that to build upon. And and again, knowing Chris, I know he's a guy that's going to be all in and do his best to make that program continue to move it forward. And I was talking about coaching trees, and as I move on to this Chestmont, one I'm really excited to see how it pans out is the hire of Bobby Lavelle at Great Valley. Again, Bobby Lavelle, a product of that Council Rock program, wrestled there and coached there under Coach Sillen Perry. And you can't help but think like what he learned in his time there, not just from a technical standpoint, but just from a standpoint of how to manage a team. And one of the things we've always talked about with Coach Sillen Perry and his assistants is how the team is run. And so if he's able to take some of that and make it his own, I believe he's a counselor there at the high school as well.
Yeah.
So he's got the psychology background, if you want to that, and he's got the technical ability. I hope that he turns that Great Valley program around.
Yeah, and I got a chance to talk to Brad Sillen Perry. I'm not sure if it's in the video clip or not that Mike's going to show later on with the coaches, but Brad was kind of it was bittersweet for him, he said, to lose Bobby. But, obviously when you have someone from your own coaching staff go on and take over another program as head coach, you're very proud. But, again, Brad said, all the assistants in that program are critical and important players to that type of program. And you're right. I'm interested to see if Great Valley changes their scheduling a little bit, whether they change their approach on, off-season stuff, and really see if they can bring that Council Rock, type attitude to Great Valley. So that's going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on over the next couple of years, because that's the kind of the kid that's going to take over and stick around and be the lead guy of a program for a long time. So congratulations to all these new coaches and certainly to Bobby Lavelle. All right, we got a couple others out there. I'm going to talk a little bit about our Pencrest change with Steve Resnick coming over from Marple Newtown. You know what? Pencrest is going to lose a lot there in terms of transition. I think Steve Resnick hits the ground running there coming from Marple Newtown, having wrestled at Pencrest. Resnick, a great, pedigree there in wrestling. And, Steve's been around the sport since he was a little kid, and that's all he knows. And he's going to do a good job, for Pencrest. And I'm glad he's down there. But, Marple Newtown, Artie Erie, he's going to have to step in. He's got some, work to do, kind of similar like, Chris Meister does at South. It's always about those numbers there at Marple Newtown over the last several years. I mean, you just turn the page, 2 groups of seniors ago, almost 8 years ago now, and remember that Marple Newtown team not that long ago. So, good luck to him down there at Marple Newtown. And you're going to talk a little about Radnor's Justin Schellinger coming in, Jim?
Yeah, takes over for Matt Torsani. He's been on the staff at Radnor for a while. He's in the building, and word out of Radnor is that the kids have really taken a liking to him. He's got numbers up, and he's doing a real nice job of building upon what Torsani was able to do for the last several years as a coach there. And Torsani's out of the Glenn Kaiser coaching tree, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Moving on to the Chestmont. We talked a little bit about Bobby Lavelle, looking further into it. Also in the Chestmont, Unionville and Westchester Ruston hired new coaches this year. Unionville, Todd Swizik takes over for Bill Taylor. Again, a guy that he's trying to put his footprint on the program, and it's a situation where he's, again, a lot of these newer coaches, it's kind of saying a lot of the same things, but they're coming to situations where they need to assert their program and their system in place. So you alluded to it earlier. There's going to be growing pains, and no difference there in Unionville. I'd say one of the easier transitions is going to be at Ruston, and it's not coincidental we saved it for last because Brad Harkins, who started the program at Ruston when the high school opened roughly 12 years ago, is still in the fold. He's still on the staff there. Tony Finding is on the books as the head coach, but that staff has always had an army of coaches. And it's still no different. They still have
Council Rock North
and South. Yes, they it's a testament to the success that Ruston's had in recent years because of the amount of talent they've had, not just on the team, but the amount of talent they've had in the room helping coach these kids up. So nothing changes, just kind of the name.
Yeah, and Brad does the right thing there. I did that with Trent Mongilla when I stepped down. Stuck around there, kind of as a co-head coach, and just it's a good transitional piece to do, and it helps the administration, it helps the kids, the program, the parents, but the wrestling's not going to change at Ruston. It's going to be, the same. You're going to get the same type of wrestling out there at Ruston. I think we may have forgotten Bill Kerwin. Did we mention him from Avon Grove? Frank McHugh, longtime coach at Avon Grove, retiring, and Bill Kerwin kind of stepping in there at the last minute, kind of right before the season got started. So we talked about growing pains. Certainly Avon Grove is going to have to kind of really rebuild the program, try and get numbers, and they'll be okay in a couple of years, but Bill has some work to do, and you know what? And when you step in as a first time head coach, sometimes the cupboard is bare, and you have to build. And it's an opportunity for Bill to kind of build his own program. So we're going to run right into the videos here now, the new coaches, and here you go.
It's good here. I graduated from here, so. Just trying to build a team. Last coach was kind of let it fall apart a little bit, so that's a little hard to get kids in the room.
It feels pretty good. It's something I've been looking forward to since I graduated college. I stepped in as a volunteer assistant at Lyco, and ever since then I've been waiting to have my own team to be able to have success there.
It's a new area, new type of kids, but it's been really fun. It's my first time as a head coach, so kind of having free reign has been a good thing, but being able to come in with a fresh group of kids has been it's been a nice change. So I've always had the same kids working with over and over again. Starting them from scratch has been fun. I wouldn't really call Great Valley a rebuild, but getting them back on track is definitely something I'm working towards. So the kids are on board, their effort's been great, so can't really have any complaints with that.
It's nothing different really. Since I've been there, I've been pretty much running the room. Only thing different is all the computer work, dealing with parents, AD, stuff like that. Transition's pretty easy.
Good, and I see you've surrounded yourself with some guys from the Truman wrestling programs that have been around a long time. How important is that for the kids with the consistency?
Oh, that's real important, especially having younger coaches that can roll around every day with the kids, push them, make them better. We have a lot of kids to come into our program that don't really know what wrestling's all about, and they find out pretty quick.
Different. Kids are different, but once again, I enjoy just being in the room with the kids. So as far as 15 years ago now, it's just a matter of continuing to grow the kids, getting them to buy back into the program, those types of things there.
I guess the big thing is a lot more paperwork. Basically, I ran the room for a long time. I've been around the sport a long time, so really not much difference except for the administrative work and all the paperwork.
Nice.
Good coaching staff behind me, so they bring me to the room. I wouldn't be able to do it without them. They got tons of knowledge. They're both very talented college wrestlers, high school wrestlers. They do a whole lot for me. Makes it a little easier for my job. And they can wrestle with the kids all day long. They're pretty good shape. They work out all the time, so and they're real good coaches also.
All right, coming back, here we are. We're going to talk a little bit about the new rules. And there's some tweaks to rules, and some things change a little bit. Some are larger changes than others. Some I know personally I've already seen gone into effect this weekend, having been at a tournament up in District 11. So Glenn, I'll defer to you and chime in.
I mean, I guess for wrestling fans out there, the best thing to do is just get onto the PIAA.org. Go to the wrestling bulletin for this season. It'll give you all the clarification of the new rulings and some interpretations. And the biggest thing is the clarification and the rationale for the rule. And that's all written out. I would recommend that fans and coaches alike check that out. But coaches have all been to the rules and terps meetings this year, middle school, high school coaches, and all the officials out there in District 1. And Kim Smith is our leader here in District 1, down in our chapter. And he does a phenomenal job with explaining the rules to the coaches. He kind of leaves out all the nonsense, which we're going to do tonight. We're only going to touch on a couple of quick things. And number one is, the best thing is we're moving closer and closer to the collegiate rules. Officials are getting a lot more leeway now in calling that takedown out of bounds. And certainly last year with the change in the pinning out there on the line and out of bounds. So I think you're going to see a lot more, action out on the edge of the mat, and you're going to see 2 points scored. And you said you just saw a little bit of it this past weekend.
Yeah, this past weekend up in District 11 with my junior high team, and it was refreshing to see, like, getting out on the edge of the mat, 1 foot in, still being able to let them wrestle, one hand in, letting it go, and letting them really try and score there on the edge of the mat. Really made for a lot of differences in matches. And it's one of those things where you coach your kids from the start. Hey, this is how it's changing, and you do your best to prepare them for it. But it's a little bit different when it's actually an actual application in a real match. So they, the officials there at District 1, I thought, did a really good job and were very consistent with how they called things, and just it made for, again, more space to wrestle. Kids weren't stopping there at the end because they knew it was going to get whistled. They had to wrestle and keep wrestling until they heard that whistle. So for me personally, like, I couldn't be a bigger fan of it. I'm excited to see where it's going, and as we move further and further away from the old rules and to this new way of officiating matches, and it's only makes it better.
And it really improves the quality of the officiating as well, because and the biggest thing has always been the safety concern about the short ends of mats and mats butting up against each other in tournaments. We talked about that off camera. But more importantly, if you have those 5 feet out there on that tight edge, why not let them wrestle and use all the mat? So we're going to see that kind of start to evolve a little bit. And you're still going to get guys that are going to call a little bit quicker than others. But I think everyone's going to there's going to be an emphasis on that. Some of the other things that are out there, we're just talking again off camera about this real quick, is the fleeing the mat becoming a technical violation. Is going to be counted out, and you're going to be penalized for that. Lifting and carrying the wrestler out of bounds, again, has always been, what is that? Is that an attempt? Well, it's going to be looked at as a technical violation as well. So again, take a look at your chart on the PIAA.org with the bulletin to understand a little bit about what that looks like with the stalling, in particular regards to fleeing the mat. So that's just another thing you're going to have to keep an eye on, because when you see those stalling calls or a technical violation like that, they're going to start to add up. You're going to start to see that first point, that second point, then it's going to be 2, and then that 4th time, it's going to be a disqualification. So that is a big rule change. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of that, because it's rare that we see people be DQ'd, but you got to keep your eye on it. And then the last one is the big one that we're going to talk about, and this is that allowing multiple wrestlers in varsity event tournaments at the discretion of the tournament to actually allow a team to have more than one wrestler in the same weight class. So we'll see how that goes. I think tournament directors like myself at the Wetzel Classic, we have 39 teams. We just can't do it. But I think at a 16-man bracketed tournament, or a 12-man tournament, or even a 24-man bracket, I mean, it may make sense when you have teams that are thin. Obviously, at the varsity level, this is where there has to be an agreement by the tournament official to allow it. At the non-varsity level, I like how they describe that, Joe. Non-varsity level, we're assuming that's JV. So at the JV level, you can always do that. And I think it is limited. You can get up to 3 contestants per weight class in those varsity events. At the sub-varsity level. And then it's a tournament with 9 or more teams that has to qualify for those multiple entries. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think we've seen that yet. I don't believe Cumberland Valley did that, or we would have probably seen some of those Council Rock guys, make that move. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of it. What are your thoughts on that?
I know personally we're heading to a tournament at Bellefonte where we've already been invited to bring up to 2 extra guys per weight class, and the tournament director is adamant that for their JV tournament they only want first-year guys in the JV tournament. They want it to just be for novice wrestlers and anyone with any experience they want in their tournament. So one, they want to make it better, and 2, just to expand those brackets. But like you said, it has to be over 9 teams, so it doesn't waver, because 9 would be 9, anything under 9 teams is 2 points. Anything over 9 is 3. So you have to make sure you stay within those parameters. But like you said, 39 teams to Wetzel. Like if every kid brings or every team brings a kid, that's 39-man bracket, and you go on to doubling that potentially, or at least put half of that many more kids in. Like, you have to think about in time how much time that adds to the tournament itself.
Well, we talked about it today. I talked about it with Billy Brennan from Abington, and I said that could be 100 wrestlers added to the event really quick. I'm just getting a cue card guy just told me that Cumberland Valley Classic, they did allow the multiple entries, but we didn't see a lot of them in there. So that's interesting as well. I mean, as a coaching staff and as a program early season, do you pull that off? I can see doing that after January 1 when you have some guys battling for a position, when guys have dropped, because we've seen in past some good wrestlers not make the postseason. That could show, be a wrestle off right in there at a tournament, type level. So that's pretty much it for the new rules. And like I said, I really think it's important for you to take a look at that PIAA.org, the wrestling bulletin for 2019-20. It'll explain everything with the rules.
All right, Glenn, moving on. Not kind of making a big jump here. We're going to talk about girls wrestling. It's been a very hot topic. It's growing in numbers, and not just that, but like I said, being talked about. Some teams or some schools, and not necessarily in District 1, are starting to sponsor girls wrestling at their schools. We're not there yet, but I think it's coming. It's not sponsored at the PIAA level yet, but in the same breath, I believe it's coming. So just giving you some numbers to start off with, and we're going to talk about it. We got a video where we talked with some the girl wrestlers that we were able to reach out to and interview at the scrimmages, and some of the coaches, and they're going to talk about just wrestling in general, competing with the boys, and how it's growing. You're looking in the last 4 seasons, we have the numbers in boys wrestling actually have decreased. Have gone up and down a little bit. 10,500 in 2016-17, up to 10,600, almost 7. Then down, numbers are down about 200 last year, and they stayed about the same. The 2 years ago, and stayed about the same last year, about 10,400. Whereas girls wrestling in 2016-17 was 131 wrestlers in the state of Pennsylvania. It went to 166 the following year in 17-18. In 18-19, 206. So a 40 girl jump in that year, and then to 217 this past year. And I'm willing to bet right now that number is going to far exceed 217 this year, just based upon just the growth in general. So and that 217 isn't even reporting I'm sorry, that's this year, 2019-2020, and that's not reporting all numbers just yet. Are all on track that we've been able to get from there. So it's growing. Speaking from personal experience at O&J, we do have 1 girl on the high school team, but we have something along the lines of 14 in our youth program right now. And there's coaches that designate their time to coaching them, and it's these are girls that get after and scrap. Again, I alluded to as the middle school or junior high tournament at Whitehall over the weekend. There was a girl that made the finals from Bangor, and she kind of ran through things her side of the bracket and at 101 pounds until she got to the final, and then she'd lose in the final. I was at the Penn State Lehigh match on Friday night, and they introduced the Bangor youth team, and they spotlighted one particular little girl, and she went something like 88-0 last season in youth wrestling, and gave all of her accolades and between youth wrestling against boys and girls. So again, the athletes, the wrestlers, they're out there, and there's more and more of them, and it's cool to see. It's we're seeing this sport grow and evolve, and from basically from ground zero.
Yeah, so talk a little bit more about it, the PIAA level, because I think that's where we're heading. And we've had some girls at Hatboro Horsham over the last several years. At my last year there as an assistant, after I had retired, we had 5 girls and 1 girl wrestled varsity on the regular. She wrestled a little bit last year as well before she got hurt at the varsity level. Lana Barberi, which you're going to hear a nice video about all the work she's been doing in the off season and in girls wrestling. But I really would recommend again here that Joe Stabilito Sr. Is the pioneer of girls wrestling here in Pennsylvania. He's the Pennsylvania USA guy, USA wrestling guy. And he's the PA girls wrestling guy. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Joe, contact him. We're not sure where the PIAA is going to go with this in the next couple of years. I mean, we're not talking 5 years down the road, Joe. We've already done our 2-3 years. This will be the 3rd year of the state championships for girls wrestling in high school. I'm not exactly sure of the site this year, but the last 2 years it was held on the Sunday after states, so it's the same weekend of states. So again, a good time to do that. Good venue out there in the Harrisburg area. I believe it was at Warwick High School. Was that last year or the year before? Mike's saying, yeah, it was Warwick last year. I forget where it was the year before. But so that movement has already been made. Now we've petitioned the PIAA. I believe it was tabled the beginning of this year. I'm not sure where it will come up for voting over the next year. However, they do anticipate at least piloting some teams. We're hoping that down the road that teams can take a couple of, kind of have a regional team, for example, Upper Dublin, Hatboro Horsham, and Upper Moreland. If we have enough to make up a team, whatever the weights will be, if it's 8 to 10 weights, I'm not sure. My understanding is it's going to be, not always folk style rules. I mean, we're going to have to make some decisions there. It looks like they're looking at more international rules for the girls. That's where the coaching seems to come from for the girls, is at the international level. So this is kind of a really exciting time for not only for wrestling with the growth of wrestling, but again, pioneering what women's wrestling and girls wrestling looks like, not only at the high school level, but as you said, the youth level, the middle school level, and of course the collegiate level and the Olympic level. Right here in our own backyard, Del Val has added a girls team, a women's wrestling team at Del Val, and there's going to be schools in Division III that follow rather quickly. I think that's where you'll see that movement at the JUCO level, the private school, Division III level, and then kind of move up in the NCAA level as well. So there's a lot of questions. They're talking about moving it to the springtime as a spring sport. You're talking about coaching now all year round for coaches. If you added this sport at the same time, it would really be, you're talking about mat space. So there's a lot of logistics that the PIAA has to look at. They got to look at it as maybe a club sport initially. So we're kind of in the midst of, seeing what the PIAA is going to do with it. And, I commend Joe Stabilito Sr. I don't know how he does it. Because he's got to worry about all the other things and coaching, but he's just been the man there. So, we're going to be supportive of girls wrestling here in District 1 and throughout the Southeast region all year long until the PIAA can make up their mind. So I think we're going to run the video and have the girls talk about their experience so far.
I think it's really good that girls wrestling is picking up. I think it's a great sport for anyone to get involved in, and obviously I think it's better that more girls are involved so that more girls have opportunities.
Girls wrestling, I definitely see growing. More and more tournaments I go to where it was maybe 1 or 2 girls and I wrestling in a guy's bracket, but now there's 3, 4, sometimes even just there's one girl's bracket. It's crazy how much it's grown since I've been wrestling since 7th grade, and now I'm an 11th grader. As a female wrestler, wrestling, a majority of guys in the winter, slowly transforming into girls in the spring and summer. It's this will be about my 2nd, 3rd year in a row, transition from guys to girls, obviously mixing sometimes guys in the girls season. It's actually not as difficult as it seems to transition, actually. I believe in the philosophy that a wrestler is a wrestler, no matter like when you step on the mat, it's not a male, it's not a girl wrestler, it's not a male wrestler. It's just a wrestler, and it's just your match. So in the summer, I do step up to some national tournaments, and so I haven't done as good as I'd hoped, and how hard I've been training, and it just these past 2 years that I've been going to Fargo, and the 1 year I went to Oklahoma, it wasn't what I thought it would be. The girls competition gets harder as you get out of PA, because trust me, there's a lot of good girls in PA, but it gets harder in Texas and California when you're versing some of those already sanctioned, states with, some introduced more into girls. So, yeah, wrestling girls is just as tough as wrestling the guys.
I think, we always allow girls on our team, no question asked. We need a lot of other coaches to step up and start looking for girls and finding out if girls want to get on the team. So that's where we can build a girls-only team. But I understand we need 100 teams to have 100 teams or 100 schools to do that. So I think in our area we have a lot of girls. We have a lot of girls wrestling. I would like to see more here. So hopefully maybe next year we can start spreading the word maybe to some of the girls teams to see if they want to try.
I think wrestling is a unisex sport. I think it's all about technique and working hard and strength and conditioning. We were really fortunate to have some terrific young ladies wrestle for us, and the great thing for them is it was a catalyst to get them into a prep school, and now they're both competing on a bigger stage and actually won girls states this year. So I'm really proud of the girls that we've had, and would promote that to any young lady interested in the sport. And this is actually the first year probably in 6 years we haven't had a girl, but if one showed up, I'd be welcome.
It's been really good. It's booming here in Pennsylvania, especially at the youth level. Some of the teams this year are reporting at the youth level. We've seen numbers of 30 and 40 girls signing up for some of the youth clubs around the state. OPC numbers are up right now. We were a little over 200 last year. We're already, I believe, just over that, and there's still girls that have to get entered in. The middle school numbers as well are really up. It's here. Like, whether coaches are ready for it or not, the girls' population is coming. Little girls don't want to dance anymore; they want to wrestle, and we're seeing a lot of success. We're seeing more clubs get involved. We just went to a tournament a couple weeks ago at the Finger Lake Stools at Cornell University, and we were able to take 5 full girls teams up there, all Pennsylvania. And compared to the other states, we seem to have a lot more girls wrestling, but we're falling behind the times. It's tough, right? Because we see New Jersey and Maryland and states around us sanctioning and creating individual state championship tournaments for their girls, and that's not the way in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, we need to lay out the infrastructure before we can get to sanctioned girls wrestling, and that means having 100 schools that are members of PIAA sponsor a girls club wrestling team. So we are working with some people behind the scenes to lay out what coaches and what schools can do to start working towards establishing a girls team. But on the flip side of that too is the tournament infrastructure, right? So it's probably a little late this year already, but moving into next year we need leagues and districts, larger tournaments across the state to start implementing girls divisions, so that as these schools create girls club teams, they have a place to wrestle. So again, we're working on some literature and some documentation behind the scenes so that schools, athletic directors, administrators, coaches, they know how to move forward next year, and we're hoping that everybody takes it seriously and provides the means for these girls to wrestle. Because again, it's not, the girls are coming. You may not have any girls on your team or in your youth or in your middle school right now, but they're going to be there. The numbers are blowing up, and it's just a matter of time before every school in Pennsylvania is going to have girls wrestling on their team.
And Glenn, one thing we forgot to talk about women's wrestling, right up the road in Northeast PA and at Wyoming SEM, they have a full girls team that they support, and they're coached by Adeline Gray, Olympic gold medalist. So the support's out there. I know Nazareth has a team, and I think it's going to be a trickle-down effect to where eventually it's going to reach its way to a lot of District 1 schools. So again, like I said it before, and I'll say it again, it's coming. It's just not a matter of, when. It's more
No,
a
it used to
matter
be
of
if it's if.
yeah,
It's now it's when.
yeah.
And again, that just tells you the level of wrestling at the girls level when you have Olympian, gold medalist Olympians coaching the sport right here in Pennsylvania. So, and again, Pennsylvania, greatest state for wrestling in this great nation. So, it'll continue at the girls level.
All right, so changing up another hot topic this offseason that is kind of getting some legs at the PIAA level is the possibility of changing weights. Currently we go with 14 weight classes here in the state of Pennsylvania. They're talking to possibly there's different proposals on the table, 12, 13 weight classes. So we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about it. We're not getting specifics because it's not as much as it is gaining legs and it's being talked about. There's no real movement right now that's going to change in the very near future, Glenn.
I'm going to give you the three major points of this. From my perspective, Mike has done a lot of work in providing data to District 1 and to other people, at the state level to understand the forfeit situation. A lot of this is being driven by the forfeit situation and the lack of, numbers, if you will, in wrestling. And if you look at it, they're primarily in two spots. They're down low and they're up top. When we put in 215 back in the day, that was kind of that first test. We started moving up the 98-pound weight class from, it used to be, it was 98 when I wrestled. So I'm going to be able to speak a little bit about those lower weights. But, 98 and all the way up to heavyweight, they kept adding those upper weights. All of a sudden, all those forfeits were there. Where are the football players? And then we're like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? Now we add another weight class, 195, 220 in there. Now you're at 14 weight classes. How are you going to break a tie? Well, the best way to break a tie is the most wins in a dual meet. So I'm a big proponent of the 13 weight classes. I'll say that. I think a lot of coaches will tell you that. A lot of coaches want to go to 12 because of the forfeit situation and the numbers. But we're building the sport. We want to get kids out. So number one is the forfeit situation has been the big issue throughout, and it's not just in Pennsylvania. It's not in District 1. It's throughout the country. So that was number one. Number two is how do you break a dual meet? What are we're going to do here? Well, to me, it makes sense. The team that wins the most matches should win the duel. So that should be that criteria. So there it is with 13. And then lastly is, what weight classes need to move? What needs to come out? What needs to change? Well, I'm not a big fan of moving 106 up to 110. I mean, that's the proposal. That's really what we need to talk a little bit about. I think that it's going to be the same kid. I get it at 110 and below. But I also see the 113 pounder that now is going to suck down and become a 112 pounder. And now your starting weight is 112. And some of these kids that weigh 90 pounds, 85 pounds coming in as ninth graders that have dedicated their lives to wrestling. It's been their sport. They're going to be, really good wrestlers down the road. They're not even going to have a chance at this weight class. So that's the big thing you see across the board with coaches here in District 1. If Mike, you throw up those things here. We did a survey that didn't really go over well in my mind. I thought we should get all, at least 80 of these things turned in. But I guess there really just wasn't a lot of interest out there in kind of voting on this. But as you can see, when you have 11 unsure about, the weight class thing for the 12 weight classes, it kind of says, what are we going to do here? What's going to happen? Do people not want to have that 13? Do they want to take it right down to 12 to eliminate those weight classes that all the forfeits are in? I'm not really sure what the rationale is with the coaches, certainly not with the federation. So, like I said, Mike's done a lot of work on this. I know there's been so much talk about forfeits over the year on the forum. So here it is. Talked to Denny Kellen the other day. And he is going to stick behind what the coaches here in District 1 want. We're going to take that to the state level. They're going to vote on this. We did petition to pilot in Pennsylvania. Mike can confirm that from the meetings. And, some other states have done that. I believe it was Wisconsin, or I was the first one to do that. They said, hey, we're going to do this. But we're one to stick to the federation. So we'll see how this goes. I just think that we need to figure out a way to keep the young guy in the game, have 13 weight classes to break the tie, and eliminate one of those upper weight classes where all those forfeits is. And that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. You need to balance the upper weights. You need to keep 106. I just think, I was a big fan of 103, 106. I guess I've grown to like it, but you keep pushing that up. You are alienating a kid that could start in your lineup. That, like you said, and that's the great thing about wrestling, that it didn't, for years it didn't matter what size you were. There was a weight class probably for you to fit into, and we moved that to 110. We move away from that whole idea, and this is what trickled down to the middle school, because at that level they've already changed the weight classes. They did away with 75 pounds. Again, it went by the numbers and the forfeits. But speaking from personal experience, I got 4 guys 80 pounds or below right now, and there's only one spot for them to wrestle. It was a little bit easier pill to swallow with 2 weight classes to wrestle them at. But just the you got to play by the rules that people put in place for you. But moving away from the smaller weight classes, in my opinion, is not a good move for us here in the PWA, because of the wrestlers that you might lose as a result of it. So.
And again, the middle school, I wrestled 70 and 75, Joe. So there's 3 weight classes for you between 70 and 80 that you could have. So just, I'm not really sure who makes these decisions at the Federation. But certainly, looking at the lighter weight and kind of moving it up, it doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to get rid of one of those things up top. For me, it's really simple. Just get rid of 195 and 220 and put 215 back in. I think it solves your problem. That's all we really have on the weight changes stuff, and we'll see how that goes. And again, you can always track this on PIAA.org. After their meetings, they post their bulletins and the outcomes of those board meetings.
Yep.
All right, well, this has been our Wednesday night show. Hope you've enjoyed it, and heard about the girls wrestling movement, and certainly had some videos on our new coaches. The new rules, like I said, check out PIAA.org for that and the weight change discussion. And we're going to get into some good stuff here for Thursday, Joe.
Yep. As always, feedback welcome. Let us know things that you want us to cover, matches you want us to come out to. We say it all the time, and we get feedback here and there, but the more the merrier. Forum's a great place to voice your opinion, as everyone knows. Sometimes we get it goes down some rabbit holes when we're out there.
Hit the mute button.
Yeah, but you know how that goes. So that's all Glenn and I have for now, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Have a good night.